The Galactic Council Hall was the largest building in the entire Orion sector. It floated in space above a bright blue star, shining like a giant ring of silver. Inside the hall, leaders from hundreds of alien civilizations gathered to discuss trade, war, and exploration. At the center of the hall stood a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Millions of stars glowed across the map like tiny lights. Each system was marked with colors showing who controlled it: empires, alliances, and independent worlds. Young explorer Terev stood quietly near the edge of the platform, staring at the map with curiosity. Terev was from a small exploration guild known for sending ships into unknown regions. Unlike most leaders in the council, he was not there for politics. He was there for discovery. His large eyes carefully studied every corner of the glowing map. That was when he noticed something strange. At the far edge of the galaxy, the map suddenly stopped. Not because there were no stars. There were thousands of stars there. But they were completely blank. No trade routes. No colonies. No exploration markers. Just empty space. But in the center of that blank region, one symbol appeared. A red warning line. Next to it were three simple words. Human territory. Terev frowned. He had heard of humans before. They were a younger species compared to many civilizations in the council, but their technology had grown very quickly. Still, this made no sense. No species controlled that much space. Terev stepped closer to the map. He expanded the blank region with a gesture. The hologram zoomed in, revealing hundreds of unmarked star systems. It looked as if the galaxy had simply decided to stop exploring there. Confused, Terev turned to a nearby council member. The alien beside him was an old Valorian historian, a tall being with pale skin and glowing eyes. "Excuse me," Terev said politely. "Why does the map end here?" The Valorian looked at the blank region. For a moment, he said nothing. Then his glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "You are new to the council, explorer," the historian replied slowly. "Yes," Terev said. "But this must be a mistake. That area has thousands of star systems. Why has nobody explored them?" Several nearby council members suddenly grew quiet. One ambassador turned away. Another deactivated his translation device and left the platform. Terev noticed the strange reaction. "Is something wrong?" he asked. The Valorian historian leaned closer and lowered his voice. "That region," he said carefully, "is human space." Terev blinked. "Yes. I can see that," he said. "But why has nobody mapped it?" The historian studied the young explorer for a moment. Then he spoke the words quietly. "Because every civilization that tried, never returned." Terev stared at him in disbelief. "That cannot be true," Terev said. "The council would not ignore an entire region of the galaxy because of rumors." The Valorian slowly raised a thin hand and pointed at the red line on the map. "That line has been there for almost 100 years, he said. "Many explorers thought the same thing you are thinking now. They believed the stories were exaggerations." Terev crossed his arms. "What happened to them?" The historian's glowing eyes looked back at the map. "No signals," he said. "No wreckage. No survivors. Just silence." The massive council chamber suddenly felt colder. But instead of fear, Terev felt something else. Excitement. Mystery. A place in the galaxy that nobody dared to explore. A place filled with unknown stars. And one species guarding it. Humans. Terev looked back at the map again. The blank region felt almost like a challenge. He smiled slightly. "Then someone should investigate properly," he said. The historian's eyes widened. "You cannot be serious." "Of course I am," Terev replied calmly. "Exploration exists to answer questions." The Valorian shook his head slowly. Young explorer, the last ship that tried this disappeared 42 years ago. Terev turned toward the exit of the council chamber. Then it is time someone tried again. Hours later, Terev's exploration vessel drifted at the very edge of the forbidden region. In front of him, space looked completely normal. Stars burned peacefully in the distance. There were no warning beacons. No defense platforms. No visible fleets. Only a quiet line in space where the galactic map ended. Terev took a deep breath. Then he pushed the navigation control forward. His ship slowly crossed into human territory. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly, his sensors exploded with signals. Thousands of hidden objects appeared across nearby systems. Massive ships. Silent. Watching. And one calm human voice filled his communication channel. Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted human space. State your purpose. Terev froze in his command chair. The calm human voice still echoed through the bridge of his ship. Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted human space. State your purpose. For a moment, Terev did not answer. His eyes were locked on the sensor screen. Thousands of signals filled the display. Warships. Huge ones. His scanner struggled to measure their size, but many of them were larger than the largest ships used by the Galactic Council fleets. And they were everywhere. Hidden in the shadows of distant stars. Drifting quietly near asteroid fields. Orbiting planets that had never been marked on the galactic map. All of them had been invisible just moments ago. But now they were clearly watching him. Terev slowly swallowed. The rumors from the council suddenly felt much more real. Still, he forced himself to remain calm. He activated the communication console. This is Explorer Terev of the Orion Exploration Guild, he said carefully. I come in peace. My purpose is scientific exploration. The communication channel stayed silent for several seconds. Long enough for Terev to notice something strange. None of the human ships were moving. They were simply waiting. Perfectly still. As if they had already decided what to do with him. Then the voice returned. Explorer Terev, the human said. Your ship crossed our border exactly 3 minutes and 12 seconds ago. Terev blinked. 3 minutes. His sensors had only detected the fleet seconds ago. How did you? The human voice calmly continued. We tracked your ship before it reached the border. Terev felt a chill run down his back. They had been watching him the entire time. Even before he entered their territory. The human spoke again. Remain where you are. A patrol fleet will arrive shortly. Terev leaned back in his chair. His curiosity was growing stronger than his fear. Outside his ship's window, the distant stars shined quietly. But now he knew the truth. This region of space was not empty. It was one of the most heavily guarded regions in the galaxy. Minutes passed slowly. Then his sensors detected new movement. 5 massive ships appeared from behind a nearby moon. They were unlike any warships Terev had ever seen. Their designs were sharp and powerful, built with thick armor and glowing engine cores that burned bright blue. Each one was easily 3 times the size of Terev's exploration vessel. And every weapon on those ships was aimed directly at him. Terev took a slow breath. The ships approached until they surrounded him in a loose circle. A new signal appeared on his communication console. Explorer vessel, a different voice said. This one sounded slightly older, more experienced. I am Commander Holt of the Human Border Patrol. Terev nodded respectfully, even though the human could not see him. Commander Holt, I mean no harm, Terev said. I only wish to understand why the galactic map ends here. There was a brief pause. Then the commander replied. You are not the first explorer to ask that question. Terev leaned forward. But I might be the first one who gets an answer, he said. For a moment, the human commander did not respond. Then something unexpected happened. The patrol ships slowly changed formation. Instead of aiming their weapons directly at him, they moved slightly outward. Not retreating, but escorting. Commander Holt spoke again. Explorer Terev, he said. Your ship will follow us. Terev frowned slightly. To where? You will receive answers there. Before Terev could ask another question, the patrol fleet began moving. The 5 massive ships accelerated forward. Their engines glowed brightly as they headed deeper into human space. Terev hesitated for only a second. Then he followed them. As his ship traveled deeper into the region, his sensors continued scanning the surrounding systems. The results were shocking. There were human fleets everywhere. Hidden bases. Defense stations built around distant stars. Large shipyards slowly constructing enormous warships. But something about it felt strange. Despite the massive military presence, there were very few civilian signals. No busy trade routes. No large planetary cities. It looked less like an empire, and more like a massive defensive wall. Hours later, the patrol fleet slowed down near a distant star system. A gigantic structure appeared ahead. Terev's eyes widened. A human space station. But it was far larger than any station he had ever seen. It was almost the size of a small moon. Hundreds of ships docked around it. Defense cannons surrounded its outer ring. And thousands of human warships patrolled nearby space. Commander Holt's voice returned. Explorer Terev, welcome to Sentinel Station. Terev stared at the massive structure. One question filled his mind. What could possibly require defenses this powerful? Then the commander spoke again. You wanted to know why the galaxy stops mapping this region. There was a pause. Then he finished the sentence. Because beyond this point, we are not protecting ourselves. We are protecting the galaxy. Terev's ship slowly approached Sentinel Station. From a distance it already looked massive, but the closer he got, the more unbelievable it became. The station was enormous. It stretched across space like a giant metal ring around a glowing star. Thousands of lights covered its surface, and hundreds of ships moved around it like small insects. Human warships. Cargo vessels. Patrol fighters. Everything moved with perfect order. Terev had visited many advanced civilizations before, but he had never seen a defensive structure like this. It felt less like a station, and more like a fortress. His ship was guided toward a large docking bay. The patrol ships that escorted him slowly moved away, but several human fighters stayed close, watching carefully. A calm voice spoke again through his communication system. Explorer Terev, prepare for docking. The docking lights turned green. Terev carefully guided his ship into the station. As the doors closed behind him, he took a deep breath. He had finally entered the most mysterious region in the galaxy. Moments later, Terev stepped out of his ship and onto the metal floor of the station. Several humans were waiting for him. They looked different from most species in the galaxy. Stronger. More confident. Their movements were calm and controlled. At the front of the group stood a tall woman wearing a dark naval uniform. Silver stars marked her shoulders. Her eyes were sharp and focused. Explorer Terev, she said. I am Admiral Elena Hayes, commander of the Human Border Fleet. Terev gave a respectful nod. It is an honor to meet you, Admiral. Admiral Hayes studied him for a moment. You came here looking for answers, she said. Yes, Terev replied. Hayes gestured toward a long window overlooking space. Then come with me. They walked through a quiet corridor until they reached a large observation room. The view outside was breathtaking. Hundreds of human warships floated near the station. Some were enormous dreadnoughts. Others were smaller patrol ships. All of them looked ready for war. Terav crossed his arms thoughtfully. "This is more military power than most empires in the Council," he said. "And yet the galaxy thinks human space is empty." Admiral Hayes gave a small smile. "That is exactly how we want it." Terav turned toward her. "So you hide your fleets?" "Yes. But not for the reason you think." She activated a holographic display in the center of the room. A map of the galaxy appeared. Terav recognized it immediately. It was the same map from the Galactic Council. The same blank region. Human territory. But then Admiral Hayes expanded the map. The display zoomed far beyond the border. Much deeper into unexplored space. And what Terav saw made his heart stop. There were battle zones marked across the map. Destroyed systems. Danger warnings. And strange symbols Terav had never seen before. "What is that?" he asked quietly. Hayes folded her arms. "An enemy." Terav looked confused. "The Council has never reported any enemy out there." Hayes nodded slowly. "That is because the Council has never seen them." Terav felt a growing tension in the room. "Who are they?" he asked. The Admiral looked back at the map. "Thousands of years ago," she said, "long before humans joined the galactic community, our deep space explorers discovered something far beyond the outer rim." She paused. "Another civilization." Terav leaned closer. "That is normal," he said. "New civilizations are discovered all the time." Hayes shook her head. "Not like this one." She touched the display. The hologram changed. A terrifying image appeared. Strange alien ships. Dark. Massive. Covered in sharp structures like weapons. "These are called the Void Reavers," Hayes said quietly. "They do not explore. They do not trade. They do not negotiate." Terav stared at the image. "What do they do?" Hayes looked directly at him. "They destroy." The room became silent. "Entire civilizations," she continued. "Entire star systems. They move through the galaxy like a storm." Terav slowly shook his head. "But if they are that dangerous, why has the galaxy never seen them?" Hayes turned back toward the window. Outside, hundreds of human warships waited quietly. "Because," she said calmly, "every time they try to enter this galaxy, they meet us first." Terav felt a cold wave run through his body. All those fleets. All those defenses. All those hidden ships. Human space was not empty. It was a shield. But before Terav could ask another question, a loud alarm suddenly echoed through the station. Red lights flashed across the walls. Officers rushed through the corridors. Admiral Hayes looked toward the control screens. Her expression changed instantly. Serious. Focused. A voice came through the station speakers. "Alert. Long-range sensors detect unknown fleet approaching the outer border." Terav looked at the Admiral. Her voice was calm. But the words were heavy. "It seems," she said, "you arrived at a very interesting time." Terav stared at the sensor display. Dozens of massive signals were moving toward human space. The enemy. The Void Reavers had returned. Red warning lights flashed across Sentinel Station. The calm and quiet fortress suddenly turned into a place of fast movement and urgent voices. Human officers rushed through the corridors while alarms echoed through every deck. Terav stood near the large observation window, watching everything with wide eyes. Outside, the peaceful formation of ships was already changing. Human warships were moving. Massive dreadnoughts turned slowly toward deep space. Fighter squadrons launched from the station like swarms of silver arrows. Heavy cruisers activated their shields, glowing faint blue around their hulls. Within minutes, the empty space around the station became a powerful battle formation. Terev looked at Admiral Hayes. "Is that them?" he asked. Hayes nodded once. "Yes. The Void Reavers." She walked toward the main control console and studied the incoming signals. The sensor screen showed dozens of red marks moving through deep space. Then the number increased. 50. 70. Over 100 enemy ships. Terev felt a cold feeling in his chest. That fleet could destroy entire civilizations, he said quietly. Admiral Hayes did not look worried. Instead, she gave calm orders. All fleets, move to defensive positions. Lock the outer border. Across human space, thousands of warships responded instantly. From hidden bases and distant systems, ships began jumping toward the border. Entire battle groups appeared near Sentinel Station. Terev watched in shock. The humans had been preparing for this moment for a long time. Soon the first enemy ships appeared on the long-range cameras. They were terrifying. The Void Reaver ships looked nothing like normal spacecraft. Their hulls were dark and twisted, shaped like enormous blades. Red energy glowed across their surface like burning veins. They moved slowly but with terrible power. More of them emerged from deep space. A dark fleet spreading across the stars. Terev whispered, "There are so many." Admiral Hayes crossed her arms calmly. "Enough talk," she said. "Begin the defense." A deep voice echoed across every human ship. "Human border fleet, engage." Suddenly the darkness of space exploded with light. Human dreadnoughts fired first. Massive beams of blue energy shot across space, striking the front line of the enemy fleet. Several Void Reaver ships were hit instantly, their hulls breaking apart in bright explosions. But the enemy kept coming. The Void Reavers answered with their own weapons. Dark red energy blasts ripped through space, smashing into human cruisers. One ship lost its shields and exploded into pieces. The battle had begun. Terev held the railing as the station shook slightly from distant shockwaves. Fighter squadrons rushed forward, moving between the giant warships like sparks of light. Missiles streaked through the darkness, chasing enemy ships. Everywhere Terev looked, there was war. But something surprised him. The humans were not panicking. Their fleets moved with perfect coordination. When one ship was damaged, two others moved to protect it. Dreadnoughts formed heavy defensive lines while smaller ships attacked from the sides. It was clear they had fought this enemy many times before. Admiral Hayes watched the battle silently. Then she spoke a single command. "Release the Guardians." Moments later, 3 enormous ships slowly moved out from behind the station. Terev's eyes widened. These ships were unlike anything he had seen before. They were gigantic. Each one was nearly the size of a small moon. Their armor was thick and covered with glowing weapons. Human Guardian dreadnoughts. As they moved forward, the human fleets opened space for them. Then the first Guardian fired. A blinding white beam shot across space. It struck a massive Void Reaver ship directly. For a moment, the enemy vessel tried to resist. Then it shattered completely. The battlefield fell silent for a second. Even the Void Reavers seemed to hesitate. But the humans did not. The Guardian dreadnoughts continued firing, cutting through the enemy fleet like unstoppable giants. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes. Within an hour, the dark fleet began to retreat. The remaining Void Reaver ships turned and fled back into deep space. Slowly, the battle ended. The stars became quiet again. Terev looked out the window in disbelief. The humans had just defeated a fleet powerful enough to destroy the galaxy. Admiral Hayes finally relaxed her posture. The border is secure, she said calmly. Terev looked at her. Now he finally understood something. The galaxy feared human space. But the truth was far greater. Human space was not a forbidden region. It was the front line of a hidden war. The battlefield slowly became quiet again. Broken pieces of destroyed ships drifted through space like dark clouds. Small rescue vessels moved carefully between the wreckage, searching for survivors and recovering damaged fighters. From the observation window of Sentinel Station, Terev watched everything in silence. Just hours ago, he believed human space was a mystery. Now he understood something much bigger. This region was not empty. It was a shield. A shield protecting the entire galaxy. Behind him, Admiral Hayes stood calmly while officers reported the final battle results. Enemy fleet destroyed, one officer said. Border patrols returning to position. Hayes nodded once. Good work. Maintain outer sensor watch. The officers returned to their stations, and the room slowly became quiet again. Terev finally spoke. The Council has no idea about this war, he said. Hayes turned toward him. No, she replied. And that is exactly how it must stay. Terev looked confused. But why? He asked. If the galaxy knew what humans are doing here, every civilization would help you. Admiral Hayes walked slowly toward the large window. Outside, the massive Guardian dreadnoughts were returning to their defensive positions. You saw that fleet today, she said. Yes. That was only a scouting force. Terev's eyes widened. A scouting force? Hayes nodded. The Void Reavers exist far beyond the Outer Rim. Their civilization is ancient and enormous. If the galaxy knew about them, fear would spread everywhere. She paused before continuing. Trade would collapse. Governments would panic. Civilizations would fight each other instead of preparing for the real threat. Terev thought about the Galactic Council. He knew she was right. The Council argued constantly over small problems. If they discovered an enemy capable of destroying entire galaxies, the chaos would be unimaginable. So humans chose to fight alone, Terev said quietly. Hayes gave a small smile. Not alone, she corrected. Together. She gestured toward the fleets outside. Every human colony. Every fleet. Every station. We all know the truth. And we all chose the same mission. Terev looked at the endless lines of warships. Thousands of ships quietly guarding the border. Protect the galaxy, he said softly. Hayes nodded. For as long as it takes. For a moment, both of them stood silently. Then Terev asked the question that had been in his mind since the battle. Why did you allow me to see this? Hayes looked directly at him. Because explorers are different from politicians, she said. You seek truth, not power. She walked to the console and activated a small data chip. This contains a message for the Galactic Council. Terev raised an eyebrow. What kind of message? Hayes handed him the chip. Tell them the border remains closed. Terev looked confused. That's it? Hayes nodded. That is all they need to know. Terev smiled slightly. You trust me to keep this secret? Hayes crossed her arms. I trust you to understand something important. And what is that? Terev asked. Hayes looked back at the stars. Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones nobody knows about. Hours later, Terev's exploration ship left Sentinel Station. Human patrol ships escorted him back to the border of their territory. As his vessel approached the invisible line where the galactic map ended, Commander Holt spoke one final time. You may return to Council space now, Explorer. Terev looked back at the distant fleets one last time. Thousands of ships stood silently between the galaxy and the darkness beyond. Guardians. Protectors. Heroes no one would ever thank. Terev nodded slowly. I understand. His ship crossed the border and entered normal galactic space again. Behind him, the hidden human fleets remained at their posts. The galactic map would continue to show a blank region. A mysterious line where exploration ended. But now Terev knew the truth. The map stopped there for a reason. Because at the edge of the galaxy, humanity was standing guard.